can't hurt me. Your mind will tell you that you're completely finished long before your body actually is. David Goggins proved there's a specific threshold where most people quit, and it's nowhere near the actual limit. You're tired during a workout, and your brain tells you to stop. You're overwhelmed at school, and your mind convinces you that you can't possibly study tonight. You're nervous before a difficult conversation, and your thoughts tell you to leave. Every time you listen to that voice, you believe it. You accept it as truth. But Goggins discovered when your mind tells you you're finished, you've actually only used 40% of your capacity. Your brain has a governor. It's a protective mechanism that keeps you from destroying yourself. But that governor is set conservatively. It's built for survival, not for performance. So it sends the quit signal long before there's actual danger. When you hit the wall, when your mind is screaming that you can't do it, that's when you're actually 40% through what you're capable of, which means 60% remains. This applies to everything, not just physical training. It applies to conversations you're avoiding, skills you think you can't learn, and risks you're too scared to take. Your mind is quitting at 40%. Your actual capacity is still waiting. The next time you hit resistance, the next time your brain tells you to stop, keep going. Not recklessly, but push past the voice just a little. Do just one more set. Do just one more rep. Every single time you do, you prove to yourself that the voice is lying. After a while, your brain learns to calibrate better. It realizes that the quit signal isn't accurate, and gradually, your threshold starts to expand. You can handle more. You can endure more. You can create more. All because you finally stop treating your mind's discomfort as evidence of a real limit. The power of habit. Breaking a bad habit by sheer willpower is like trying to stop a river by standing in front of it. The actual mechanism works completely differently. You've tried this. You've white-knuckled your way through quitting something. You stop the behavior for a while through pure force. But willpower is finite. It depletes. And the moment it runs out, the habit comes roaring back with more intensity because you've been resisting it. Charles Duhigg discovered that habits aren't monolithic things you quit. They're loops. There's a cue that triggers the habit, the routine or the behavior itself, and the reward or the neurological payoff your brain gets from it. Your brain doesn't care about the routine. It only cares about the cue and the reward. The routine is just the vehicle. This means you can replace it. Keep the cue and the reward exactly the same. Change only the routine, and your brain will fire the new behavior instead of the old one because it's getting the same payoff from a different route. Say you bite your nails when you're stressed. The cue is stress. The reward is the release of tension. Instead of fighting the stress and trying to stop biting your nails, you keep the cue and the reward, but change the behavior itself. When you feel stress, instead of biting nails, you squeeze a stress ball. Same cue, same reward, different routine. Your brain doesn't have to be convinced. It just needs the same hit of relief. The reason willpower fails is because it tries to delete the habit entirely. Your brain rejects this. It's going to keep trying to get that reward. So fighting it is like trying to hold back a tide. Replacement works because you're not denying the reward. You're just taking a different path to get to it. Start with one habit you'd like to change. Don't try to quit cold turkey. Don't try to white-knuckle it. Just introduce the new routine and let your brain do what it's designed to do. If the new path is easier and gives the same payoff, it'll become automatic, which is the entire point. Think again. The smartest people in the world have one thing in common. They actively look for reasons why they might be wrong. Adam Grant calls this the scientist mindset, and it's the opposite of how most people think. You were taught to defend your positions, argue your case, and stick to your convictions, while changing your mind was treated as weakness. So being right became part of your identity, and every piece of information that threatens it gets rejected immediately. The problem is that being defensive prevents you from learning anything new. Your brain shuts down when it encounters information that contradicts what you've already decided. The more evidence you get that you're wrong, the harder you defend the original belief. Grant studied high performers and found something they all did differently. They treated their beliefs like hypotheses instead of identities. A scientist doesn't fall in love with a hypothesis, they test it. When evidence contradicts it, they don't feel personally attacked. They feel like they've just learned something useful. They adjust. They move forward. This requires a specific shift in how you relate to your own thinking. It means actively looking for evidence that you're wrong instead of evidence to prove that you're right. It means asking people who disagree with you to explain their logic. Not so you can find holes in their argument, but so you actually understand what would have to be true for their position to make sense. The more you practice looking for reasons you might be wrong, the more your identity stops being attached to being right and attaches to being accurate. Accuracy actually lets you learn and evolve. Being right keeps you right where you are. The let them theory. Half your stress isn't coming from your own life. It's coming from trying to manage other people's choices, emotions, and reactions. The moment you stop, everything changes. Mel Robbins' let them principle exposes a subtle habit most people don't realize they have: emotional overreach. You take responsibility not just for your behavior, but for how other people interpret it. You pre-adjust your tone to prevent conflict. You soften your opinions to avoid disappointment. You monitor someone's silence and assume it's your problem to solve. It's all an attempt to control variables that were never yours to control. Anxiety doesn't come from their reaction. It comes from your attempt to engineer it. You believe that if you phrase things carefully enough, anticipate their mood accurately enough, or rehearse enough possible outcomes, you can determine how they respond. But their response belongs to them. You do not run that system. Let them isn't about apathy. It's about boundary clarity. Let them misunderstand. Let them disagree. Let them feel what they feel. Their emotions are data about their internal world. They are not assignments for you to complete. When you stop trying to manage other people's inner experiences, you stop negotiating with imaginary outcomes. Instead of editing yourself to prevent reactions, you speak honestly and let the results stand. The mental noise drops, not because the world is calmer, but because you stop trying to regulate it. The power of now. Eckhart Tolle makes a claim that sounds simple until you actually understand it. You're not suffering from what's happening right now. You're suffering from the story your mind tells about it. In this literal moment, you're probably fine. You're not dying, you're not in acute danger, you're not experiencing extreme physical pain. But your mind is telling you stories about things that happened or things that might happen, and you're experiencing that story as if it's real. That's where the suffering lives. Tolle separates experience into two parts: what is actually happening and your mind's commentary about what it means. The commentary is the problem. The present moment is just data, but your mind is constantly narrating, and that narration, not the event, is what causes psychological distress. The practice is learning to separate these. When you notice yourself suffering, bring yourself back to present, the actual moment you are in. Strip away the story, strip away the meaning, and ask yourself what's factually true. Usually the answer is much smaller and more manageable than the story your mind has built. Your mind is lying to you constantly. It's predicting futures that don't exist. It's assigning meaning to neutral events. It's catastrophizing. The moment you stop believing the narration and just pay attention to what's actually happening, suffering decreases dramatically and everything becomes easier to manage. Thinking fast and slow. Your brain has two different systems for making decisions, and you're using the wrong one for the choices that actually matter. Daniel Kahneman explains why your gut instinct is brilliant sometimes and dangerous other times. System 1 is fast and intuitive. It makes snap judgments. You see someone and form an opinion. You get a gut sense and act on it. It's running pattern recognition in the background, which is why it feels effortless. It's fast because it doesn't think. It just reacts. System 2 is slow and deliberate. It's the part that can hold competing ideas in mind, test assumptions, and do actual reasoning. It costs attention and energy, which is why you don't use it by default. System 1 is great for low-stakes choices: what to wear, how to reply to a friend's text, whether to order the chicken or the fish. You've seen enough versions of those decisions that your instincts are usually good. The problem is, System 1 doesn't know its limits. It's confident even when it's wrong. The faster it reaches a conclusion, the more certain you feel, and the less likely you are to engage System 2 to verify it. So you make huge decisions, financial decisions, relationship decisions, career decisions, based on gut instinct and pattern matching that isn't calibrated for the situation. When the decision is important or irreversible, you need to engage System 2. Slow the process, write out your reasoning, look for what would prove you wrong. This means disagreeing with your gut, questioning your first impression, and actually thinking instead of reacting. When you do this, you start catching decisions that feel obvious but are actually terrible. Like when you're about to argue because you're frustrated, then slow down and realize you completely misunderstood. Or when you're about to make a major life change because you feel restless, then you examine it and see you're reacting to discomfort, not direction. The discipline is knowing when to trust System 1 and when to override it. Let System 1 handle the small stuff. Bring in System 2 when the stakes are real. You don't need another book. You don't need more information. You know enough already. The only thing left is execution.